Okay, it is 5 p.m. and today is Wednesday, October 4th, and we're getting ready to have our closed session meeting, so I'm going to go ahead and call that to order. Madam Clerk, is there any request to speak on our closed session items, or do we have any correspondence on closed session items?
No request to speak or correspondence on closed session items.
All right, thank you very much. We will go ahead and recess now to our closed session, and we'll return at 6 p.m. for our regular meeting. Thank you. All right, if we can get our council members up to the dais, we're going to start in just 1 minute. All right, looks like we have everybody now, so we can go ahead and get started. Today is Wednesday, October 4th, 2023, and I want to welcome everyone who's here. And we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. It is 6:01, and we did have a closed session earlier. Mr. Melsing, do we have anything to report out?
We do not, Mayor.
All right, thank you very much. Madam Clerk, have you received any correspondence regarding our agenda this evening?
I have received 2 email correspondence received on public comment items not on the agenda, and are in your red folder for reference, and will also be included in the official record.
All right, very good. Thank you. So we have that. And now, if you would you please call roll?
Councilmember Dynas is absent. Councilmember Estrada?
Here.
Councilmember Sobek?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Carwin?
Here.
And Mayor Zimmerman.
And I'm here. Thank you. And I believe we have Pastor Bob Warning from Crossway Menifee Church here. You've been very kind and good to come in and help us with our invocations, and thank you so much. You're here again this evening, and we always appreciate your good, positive words, and so welcome, sir.
Great, and honored to serve with all of you here in the community. And I would just like to ask God for help and pray right now. So, God, we thank you for this time that we have together. We come tonight asking for guidance, for wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. And I want to thank you for the leaders we have here in this community who care about the issues that impact our citizens. We ask that you would help us to be sensitive to people who are in need, those who are vulnerable, especially our children. And we're so grateful we have leaders that listen to us. And I ask that you would help these men and women to engage in meaningful discussion. And as our city officials work together to find solutions to difficult problems, we ask that you guide them to speak respectfully and with humility to one another. And may the consensus they reach achieve its potential for all who call Menifee home. Amen.
Amen. Thank you,
you.
Pastor Warning. We appreciate you being here this evening. I liked what you said about our youth being important to us. And on that note, we're going to do our flag salute, but we have someone in the audience named Shelley Hobbs, and she is a Menifee resident and a mother here, but her mantra is to keep our kids safe, especially those riding their bikes to school. And so I'm going to ask her if she would lead us in our flag salute. So all you got to do is say, ready, begin. Okay. All right, thank you, and thank you for everything you do, Ms. Hobbs. All right, we are on item 5, and the first item is kind of a fun item. For those of you who don't know, Menifee is 15 years old as of just a couple days ago, Sunday, October 1st. And we are going to come up to the front. I'm going to ask my council members to join me. And we have a cake here, and everyone's going to get to celebrate and have a little birthday party. So we'll come up and say a few words, and then we'll recess after that. That recess will be very short, about 15 minutes if we can, because we got a lot of council business to do as well. So with that, council members, let's come on up to the front. I'm going to also ask our city manager if he'd come on around, our assistant city manager and our deputy city manager, if you guys would come join us. So this is a very special day, and I'm going to ask all of you guys to say something real quick, and it'll have to do with our 15th year and this great celebration. So I'll start with Councilmember Sobek.
Oh, gosh, I wish I had time to think about this. But you know what? Menifee has come such a long way in 15 years. And it is wonderful to be here with all of you and our residents to be able to celebrate Menifee being 15. We have done some great things And we are going to continue to do great things in this city. And it's because of you and our residents who put their footprint everywhere we go in this city. So I just want to thank you and those that are watching for all they do on the organizations that they belong to, schools, the educators, the nonprofits, the faith-based organization, our businesses, our police, our fire, our city staff. I know I forgot somebody, but all of you are helping to make Menifee great, and we're going to have another wonderful 15 years ahead.
All right, happy birthday, Menifee. Feliz cumpleaños. So far, it's been a great 15 years. We're off to a good start, and I want to root us on for the next 15 years. We have so many big projects coming up, and it's going to be a lot of difficult decisions we have to make. We have a lot of needs because we're growing so much, but I'm confident, looking at our financials, we have a lot of prosperity on the horizon. So we all have a great team, we have a great council, we have a great executive office, and I can let the residents know, trust us, you're in good hands.
Well said.
Do you remember when you were 15 years old? You're right in the middle of a growth spurt, growing like crazy, and people start asking you, what do you want to be when you grow up? And that's exactly where we are right now in the city of Menifee. It's kind of amazing to follow that trajectory. It's a really exciting time. We've got the whole future ahead of us, and we're starting to grow into who we're going to be as an adult city. So I'm just so thrilled to be a part of the whole experience and the whole trajectory and timeline. And I'm just so honored to be able to serve this city the way it is, and I can't wait for the next 15 years to watch it from the sidelines.
And I always like to think about what it was like in 2008. Most of us were here and watching this city, something that was an effort that took quite a few years to actually accomplish. But we wanted autonomy. We wanted to be able to have some local control, even though we don't quite have that yet with some of the things the state's doing, but we're doing it as much as we can. And I'll tell you, we had about 60,000 people or so around that time, and we're somewhere around 115 now. So we've almost doubled just in those first 15 years. So it's been amazing times. It's been a lot of growth, as Councilman Carwin said, growing pains. But if you think about it, Newport Road at the time was just a single lane each way, and so was Scott Road, and we had troubles back then. We're working our very best to fix those troubles and to have our infrastructure in place so that as we continue to grow, our quality of life is commensurate with that growth. So with that, I'm going to say let's go ahead and cut some cake. I don't know, maybe Rebecca, can you please come and help us? And while you're coming up, I'm going to have our city manager share a few words as well.
Thank you, Mayor. You know what comes to mind is back in 1998. I was working in Lake Elsinore as a planner, and my boss brings me this big book, puts it on my desk, and says, I want you to review this, give the county some comments on this project. So I started thumbing through it, and it was the Audie Murphy Ranch project, and I said, you know what, I'm going to go take a drive out there because I don't know where this is. So I drove out here, and I said, this will never happen. This will never happen. So I gave him about 2 pages of comments, and then so the rest is history. You know, 6, 7 years ago when I was considering working for the city, I took another drive out here, and I was amazed of the growth. But one of what's most amazing was what I saw. I saw a lot of potential for our city. So that really made me want to work here, and thanks to our council, they ended up selecting me. So I'm really happy, and you know, we're 15 years old, and I hope to be here for the 20th and maybe 25. I don't know. So thank you, Mayor. And are we gonna sing Happy Birthday or?
I think maybe we should just do a 1, 2, 3, Happy Birthday Menifee. You guys ready? All right, on 3, 1, 2, 3. Happy Birthday, Menifee! All right, let's cut this cake. Guys, go on, guys, enjoy it. Somehow I did that without dropping it. That was my goal. All right, you guys, so we are recessed now for 15 minutes, and let's enjoy a little cake together, and then we'll get back to council business about 15 minutes. To our seats, we're going to go ahead and resume our meeting in just a minute. All right, if we can, we're going to go ahead and get our seats and let's get back into our agenda. Thank you, everybody. Again, happy birthday, and hope everybody got a piece of cake. And now that we're all amped up on sugar, we can really move forward with our meeting. We're on item 5.2. This is Community Services Update, and I see Ms. Mitchell coming to the podium. So welcome.
All right. Good evening, Council, Mayor. My name is Mariana Mitchell, Community Services Manager, and it's my pleasure to provide this month's Community Services Update. If I can please get the PowerPoint presentation up. All right, so as we're going through this, we're moving into the fall season, so it's officially fall. Some people think it's all about the pumpkin spice latte, but it's actually getting ready for us in Community Services for all of our special events, everything that's holiday, going through October, November, and December. So we're going to give some highlights about what's coming up for our recreation programs. First off, we want to make sure that our seniors know that we have a number of workshops available at the Case and Acero Senior Center, ranging from financial assistance to diabetes, how to maintain health and mental wellness. One thing I really wanted to point out is that we do have another senior scam workshop that's going to be taking place on Tuesday, October 17th from 1 to 3 p.m. And that's actually going to be a panel of specialists when it comes to talking about identity theft and scams targeting particularly our older adults. So from both our local agencies here in Menifee, our Menifee Police Department, as well as the county agencies such as the DA's office. So that's going to be a really important one. Encourage anybody who's available during that time to come down to this Case at Acero Senior Center. We also have the return of our Not Scary Farm teen trip. This is typically sold out around this time, but we do have spots available. So for parents who are a little wary of going themselves, we'll be happy to take your teens for you. So sign them up. There's plenty of room available. We take a bus down. It's fully staffed and organized and supervised, and we save the horror for all of our staff. Leading into our sports programs, we have the return of our youth basketball program here in Menifee. We do have a new item that we're kind of trying out this year. We have early bird specials, so anybody who's interested in registering for basketball, if you register during the month of October, it's about $10 off. So registration is $79 as opposed to $89. I think it's $70 as opposed to $80. So encouraging our youth to sign up quickly. This is a really popular program that starts officially in January, but we like to close out our registration in December so we can kind of assemble our teams, allow some practice times before games begin. So moving on to our upcoming events. So as I mentioned, here in Menifee, the fall is a really busy season for us. We've pretty much got an event happening every single weekend up until the end of the year. So starting off this Saturday, we have the return of our electric car show and clean air expo at MSJC. We'll have a number of electric cars on display, as well as a number of fun activities kind of focusing on sustainability, going green. We'll have our park rangers out there. Our partners in waste management will be talking about composting, all that fun stuff. So that is this Saturday at 9 o'clock to 12 at MSJC. And then the following week, we have our Fall Shred Fest. The City Clerk's Department is going to be hosting here at City Hall. So if you have any documents that, again, you want to appropriately get rid of that may have sensitive information, we encourage our residents to come out and participate in that. And then following that, we have the State of the City and Menifee's birthday celebration on October 19th. This is a multi-pronged celebration of all things Menifee, starting off with the State of the City address at the MSJC Stadium. We encourage people to arrive early, 6 o'clock. I believe the address is going to start around 6:30, and then directly following that is going to be the after party, the birthday celebration hosted by Community Services in the courtyard outside the stadium. So lots of good things. Excuse me. Lots of good things to celebrate here in Menifee. And we're going to continue the celebration the following Saturday, October 21st, with our Fall Festival. Again, an annual event that we just keep adding more and more wonderful things to. We're happy to host our Sun City Cruisers. They're going to be hosting a trunk or treat as a part of this component. And then we'll also be accepting donations for alternatives to domestic violence in order for our kids to access the wristbands to the fun zone. So lots of good things, community entertainment, costume contest for all ages, even your pets. So lots of good things. Excuse me. Lots of great things happening that day, and that is going to be on Saturday the 21st from 4 to 8 p.m. And then the very next week, we have our Day of the Dead event, which is actually moving locations. Traditionally, it's been held at Central Park, but we've kind of outgrown that location, and now we're going to be at MSJC on Saturday the 28th from 4 to 8 p.m. A lot of great cultural performances, and we encourage everybody to come on out and keep celebrating with us because the fun does not stop there. We want to be able to give a kind of a sneak peek. Thank you. A little bit of a sneak peek on our holiday events for winter. So here we have a save the date for our tree lighting and holiday bazaar, which is scheduled for Saturday, December 2nd. And a lot of the great activities that we saw take place last year, some of the enhanced snow play areas, the addition of additional lighting and photo opportunities, all of those things are going to be returning. So we wanted to make sure that our residents had an idea of what was going to be happening at the event so that we can prepare. It is going to be on, like I mentioned, Saturday, December 2nd from 4 to 8 p.m. And that will include the community parade component where Santa arrives on a fire truck, and also a number of opportunities to participate in activities, food and art and craft vendors, and then also, once again, free access to the snow play area with a donation to the Menifee Valley Community Cupboard or the Santa's Workshop. Just a little bit of information about the components, because this is one of our largest events when it comes to attendance and as well as our budget. The majority of the budget, as you can kind of see, is broken down into the number of major components, and the majority of it is dedicated to the snow play area, as well as our Christmas tree and our lighted ornaments in and around the event, kind of those memorable moments, Instagrammable moments, and then additionally some lights for our facility, additional photo opportunities with the train and excuse me. I believe we're actually going to have some characters out there, roaming entertainment in the form of Elsa and Anna, so I hope everybody's excited about that. But again, this is just kind of an overview of some of the components to expect so that the residents know, when you're coming out to these events, we're really trying to focus in on creating lasting memories for Menifee residents and utilizing the funds available to us to do that appropriately. So I believe at this point that concludes my report. If there's any additional questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you, Ms. Mitchell. Council members, do we have any questions regarding our community services update? Hearing none, thank you so much. We're going to move on to item 5.3. This is National Alzheimer's Disease Awareness Month proclamation. Council members, if you don't mind, would you please join me in the front? And also, I'm going to ask Jason White to come up and join us as well. All right, for those of you who have not had the opportunity to meet Jason White, he is a local business owner. He has a business called Great Life Senior Care. He also lives here in Menifee, and he's one of our Chamber of Commerce board members. But he has a organization that he's involved with. It's the National Alzheimer's Association, and he is one of the members there. And he's kind of got a little bit of a story that's kind of encouraged him to speak out about Alzheimer's and help to find a cure. That's what the organization's all about. So I'm going to give Jason the opportunity to share a little bit about that, and then also to tell us about an event that's coming up this Saturday.
All right. Mayor and City Council, thank you so much for having me for this proclamation. I'm honored and humbled by it. I'm a stand-in tonight for the rest of the committee who couldn't be here. But the Alzheimer's Association, like the mayor said, he said that the goal is to end the disease, right? Find a cure. And you may have heard a few months ago, 6 months ago, there was some new research and data came out that there's a new medication that kind of slows the process. If you early onset, you can slow the process. So this is what is so important about the Alzheimer's Association, is that they really truly believe that we can beat it. And my story comes in because my grandpa, he passed away from dementia. He passed away from Alzheimer's, and he's the reason I started my company. Soon after I started my company, my father-in-law also passed away from Alzheimer's, and he was the first client that we had, who got a really good deal, by the way. But so this is why a few years ago when somebody came up to me and said, hey, how would you feel about coming on board, being a part of our committee, the Walk to End Alzheimer's? I jumped at the opportunity because it's meaningful. And I'm a part of a lot of meaningful things, but this one goes a little deeper. It touches my family. There are people here in this room that have a story, and that you can say, it's impacted my family. And so, like me, I have a story to tell. And that's what's neat about the event that's coming up on October 7th in the morning, is the Walk to End Alzheimer's. That's what this shirt is all about. The Walk to End Alzheimer's. I'm on the committee. I'm kind of head of logistics this year, and something else I'm a part of. But I'm not going to tell you what I'm doing. You're going to have to come to the event to see. But it's going to be exciting. It's going to be a lot of fun, and you're going to hear a lot of really nice stories. And there are these. If you give me one more 30 seconds, there's a really special part of it. It's called the flower ceremony. And people talk about these flowers have colors, and the color is purple. You lost somebody to Alzheimer's, or yellow, where you took care of somebody who had Alzheimer's. And certain people will come up throughout the event, and they'll talk about their story. And it's powerful, it's moving, and it's a sweet kind of everybody get together. We celebrate because we love one another on a common ground, and we're walking for a goal. And that's what I'm a part of, Bill. So thank you so much, Mayor, City Council, for having me. I'm completely honored, and I'm really never at a loss for words, but I am now.
Well, thank you, Jason, and thank you for volunteering for that organization. And I believe that there will be a cure that will be found, and it just takes people getting together and raising money and doing the things for the research and all of that. And so thank you for those efforts. For those of you who don't know, October is National Alzheimer's Disease Awareness Month. And so today, on behalf of the City Council, I would like to proclaim November. Actually, it's November, not this month, November, and urge every resident to commemorate the month of November 2023 as National Alzheimer's Disease Awareness Month, and we'll make that proclamation today. I'm going to present this to you, and we can take a photo together, and hopefully the word gets out there about all the good things that are happening.
So November 7th. 8 o'clock is registry, and 9 o'clock is when we'll kind of begin the ceremonies and the walk will begin. So come on out.
This Saturday.
You can join my team or just come out. Be there. All right. One last thing here for City Council. I've got a few shirts for all of you. There's an extra large and a small, and here you go. All right. No,
An extra medium.
All right, there you go.
Thank you, Jason. All right, so that ends our presentations. We are now on item 6. This is agenda approval or modifications. Madam Clerk, do we have any modifications to tonight's agenda?
Yes, Your Honor. Staff would like to remove item number 9 and item 10.7, and those will come back at a future meeting.
All right, very good. So council members, I'm asking for a motion to approve the agenda as modified. All in favor, would you please say aye? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that's approved unanimously, and we will remove item 9 and 10.7, but I just want to make a note here so that when we get there, I don't forget. Okay. All right, so with that, we're going to go ahead and go to item 7. This is public comments. The public comments are for non-agenda items. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone who's pulled a speaker card who wishes to speak tonight on non-agenda items?
Yes.
Okay, before you call their name, I'm going to
Okay.
just read this real fast. This is the time for members of the public to address the council about items not listed on the agenda. The Brown Act limits the council's ability to respond to those comments on non-agendized matters at the time they're made. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes on a single item. Would you please call the first name?
Aaron Gapasen from
And
Seacard Pools.
maybe you can restate your name for us.
She actually did very well, sir.
Okay, good.
Aaron Gapasan of Seacard Pools.
Okay, very good. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, sir. We thank the council and everybody giving us an opportunity to hear us. We've been here in the community since the early '90s, and we've seen a lot of the hard work that you guys have done in the area. We have a retail store, one of our retail stores on Watson Road, right off of 74. And a few years ago, we came to the council to look at Watson Road, and you guys had repaired it. Over the last few years, it has gotten into disrepair with several potholes. And it's a bit of an issue when we're trying to bring people to our retail store, to our business. And it's a smoother ride to drive off of the street than it is to drive on it. I think I had emailed some photos to Ms. Manwaring for the council to take a look at, and we'd ask for you to take a look into the issue and see if we can maybe repair the road.
Excellent. All right, thank you. Just so you know, we did get the photos, and our Public Works Director is the gentleman with the tie. His name's Mr. Fiddler, and I would appreciate it if maybe the two of you could talk before you leave, okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming. All right, Madam Clerk, do we have any other speakers?
No, there are no other requests to speak.
All right, very good. Let's move on now to item 8. This is council member updates and comments, and we'll start with council member Estrada.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everybody. So I'll go ahead and give my updates over the last couple weeks. On a Saturday, I got together, and thank you for Councilman Carwin for coming out. We cleaned up Kabian Park. We cleaned up a bunch of dirty debris, even washers, cleaned off the graffiti off the park signs. And though that isn't in the city of Menifee, a lot of Quail Valley residents in my district enjoy that park. And I wanted to show good faith and help the neighboring community. And Councilman Carwin, thank you for coming out and giving your strong muscles to move those those washers, because I needed help. So we did something good, and I appreciate all the volunteers who came out, and we had volunteers coming from all around the county, not just in Menifee. Later on that day, I went to the Canyon Heights community, and city staff was there, and part of the reason staff was there was to create a bridge of communication between the city and the Canyon Heights community, which is within Quail Valley, because the city wants to have a positive relationship and have talks about acquiring the piece of land there to give Quail Valley its first park. So I was there with some public outreach, answering questions, and making myself available to the constituents. Following that, we went to the town hall Councilman Carwin had. It was a great turnout, and many of you who are here today were there as well. We answered a lot of questions, and staff was very informative. So thanks for Councilman Carwin for taking the initiative there. I know a lot of people appreciate that kind of stuff. They appreciate a council member who makes himself available. So good job. And to round out the week, I went to Mama's Kitchen. They had their 1-year anniversary. So we have a struggling economy right now. Gas prices are up, inflation is up, and I think it was great to come out there and support a small business who survived the year. And I just wanted to show my support, and I showed up. So that's all I got.
All right, very good. Thank you. Councilmember Sobek.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to be able to share a few things. First, I would like to share about the 9/11 commemoration ceremony at Mount San Jacinto College. Oops, what happened? Can we go back? There we go.
There it is.
And the mayor was there to help unveil this memorial that was made and will be kept at Mount San Jacinto campus of the Twin Towers. It was a moving event, and we had a keynote speaker, Steve Silva, who actually shared his story of his experience that day being in the Twin Towers and getting out. It was very moving, and I just want to thank Mount San Jacinto for doing this and remembering 9/11. I'd like to share that I attended Student of the Month, the first one for this school year, 2023-24, and I just want to give a shout out and congratulations to all of those students who are working so hard, and for our Chamber of Commerce, who is part of that as a great partner. This is the first year that Liberty High School was added to as a recipient, and so just want to congratulate these young people for how hard they work. And we are in good hands in our future. So just want to give a shout out to them. I attended and represented our city council along with our staff at the League of California Cities. And I just want to report out to my council members because some of these things were very important to share. One thing is that the housing unaffordability remains high and productive and pretty stagnant. With all the laws that they have put through, 100 laws, and there's 80 more on the governor's desk for this year, you can see from this graph that it's been pretty stagnant, and it's not been a big help to helping with affordable housing in the state. Some of the laws we've learned kind of contradict each other. And so there's just some crazy things going on with this situation, and I hope that we can get back a little bit of our local control. I had somebody, and I just want, since we had a few people here, and those who watch, I had somebody approach me yesterday who said that they heard on the news about this big apartment building being built in LA, next, and I believe it was Beverly Hills, and that they were it was being put multi-level housing, multi-use housing next to some $1 million homes. And I just want to share with you that the state is putting mandates on us in local control, taking away our local control, and is making it difficult for us sometimes at the local level. We're having to follow these state mandates to help with the housing crisis in California. So if you have a question, come and ask. Don't point fingers at us as a city council, but ask, and then we'll be able to share that. The keynote speaker was fabulous. He talked about how should people feel about their civic engagement. And they made these word clouds from the hundreds of people that were there. And you could see some of these words that people want to be respected, they want to be heard, they want to be valued, they want to be proud of their city. And so that was really a fun exercise that we got to do. In part of the keynote speaker, it says, where people work together courageously, their potential is unlimited. And I just want to say, I believe in the city of Menifee, this is what we do. That we are doing the right thing, and we are on the right track. Oh, can you go back to my slides? Thank you. There's a new California Business Roundtable initiative that they've really asked us to look at and to get behind as cities. And I like to ask Phil if he could send out that information to all of the council members. It's really important that we are engaged in that process. Here's another word cloud to what communities value or do or should we aspire. And so there's another word cloud that showed love, transparency, respect. And as I looked at these, this word cloud, I remember some of the activities we did when we were doing our parks plan, our strategic plan, and these are some of the words that I heard from our residents that we do as a city. So I believe we are on the right track. Also, I attended the Tip a Cop, who was putting on an event for the Special Olympics, and it was fun to be there and to be with some of our officers and our special needs, our Special Olympians, and so that was great. I attended the You Matter collaboration, where they will also have a booth at the Fall Festival for anyone seeking information on resources for that. I attended the Lake Menifee's annual gala and supported their women's charity auction. I attended the 2023 Education Summit that we held here. That is a very, very good collaborative that we hold, and the mayor got to come for the first time, and I'm glad that you got to attend, and you can see how important that collaboration is between the school districts, the schools, and the city. I attended, along with Dean Dinas, a finance committee meeting. We talked about our investment portfolio overview. The council will be receiving more information on that. I attended the Wildemar State of the City. There's a resident by the name of Mr. Sebastian Said, and he put on a benefit concert, and he's been asking He's a resident. He's been asking us to come and see his concert, so I took the time and did that, and he put on a wonderful benefit concert. I attended my RCA duties, Riverside Conservation Authority. They gave a shout out to Diane Feinstein. She was really helpful in Riverside County forming the MSHCP. I attended the WRCOG meeting, and they talked about the unclaimed refunds that the PACE program has, and they are getting towards the part where they need to give that to the state. We have 13 residents in the city of Menifee that have not claimed their refunds, and until they do, that will be in the state coffers forever until a family member or somebody claims those. I attended the Menifee Interfaith meeting yesterday where Mr. LaPiccolo from Crime Stoppers gave a wonderful presentation and information on how important that program is. And just as a kind of, a shout out, I have a flyer here, and I just want to give a shout out that Saturday, our police department is putting on a Faith in Blue, a pancake breakfast, and it's going to be hoops, hoop it up with a cop. And Black Bear Diner is sponsoring the breakfast. If you make a donation, all of the donations will go to the Menifee Community Cupboard. And come and do hula hoops with our cops or shoot basketball hoops. That's my report out.
All right, very good. Council member, or Mayor Pro Tem Carwin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I attended the Menifee Chamber of Commerce, Menifee Valley Chamber of Commerce celebration of the one-year anniversary for 9th Shield Security. The mayor was there as well for that. The WRCOG TUMF Central Zone meeting I attended, which sounds very fancy. We were approving some budgetary items there. As Councilmember Estrada mentioned before, he organized a cleanup of Cabian Park, and it was excellent to spend some time there and see the facilities that are available to our neighbors to the north there. And on September 25th, I held a town hall at Ridgemore Elementary School multipurpose room. We had a great turnout. I think we had close to 80 people there. It was really well attended. And I just want to personally thank all the members of our staff, all the directors who took their extra time out to come out to that. The members of the community really appreciated being able to ask direct questions and not be limited by time at the podium or Brown Act or things like that, to be able to get their answers right there. And the staff was very well prepared and answered the questions directly. A lot of great feedback from people appreciating the communication of our staff. So that was it. And then I just want to publicly thank Councilmember Sobek. My family has been facing some hardships over the last month and a half, and it's taken me away from my duties, and Councilmember Sobek has filled in for me on a number of things. As a voting delegate at Cal Cities, that WRCOG meeting, that was supposed to be me. She attended that. Student of the Month, that was supposed to be me. You attended that. And the Education Summit, I was supposed to be there as well. I left you holding the bag on that. So those are the 4 pretty big things that happened because I had some emergencies that took me out of town. I just wanted to thank you for, if you notice how long her list was, you say, geez, Councilmember Sobek, you're going on forever. Yeah, a lot of that was because of me. So I just wanted to thank you for, you see how much she does on her own, and she's willing to help out a colleague. So I just wanted to publicly thank you for doing those things and making sure our city continues to operate seamlessly with representation. So thank you so much for that.
All right, great report. I will try to be quick and go down the list. This is since our last meeting, September 6th, so almost a month ago. On September 8th, there was a high school football game. It was the Menifee Bowl, Heritage versus Paloma. Great game. I attended that. And then on the 9th, MSJC had their first home football game at the brand new stadium, and there was hundreds of people that were there enjoying that brand new venue. On 9/11, as was mentioned, there was a remembrance ceremony and unveiling of the monument at MSJC. If you think about it, some of those kids back in 2001 are our college students today, and some of them weren't even born then. So it's important for us to have such a monument there that explains what took place so we never forget. And the message is that those kinds of domestic terrorism is just not acceptable. It's not the answer. All right, on the 13th, I attended RCTC Commission. And then on the 14th, there was a Rotary Club meeting I attended. And then, as was mentioned, the Education Summit that I got to fill in for Mayor Pro Tem Carwin. And you're right, it's a great event, a good collaboration to be able to share concerns and issues between the districts, and it's really all about our kids and making it the best for our students. On Saturday the 16th, there was opening ceremonies for the Menifee Girls Softball League over at Marion Ashley Center, and they asked me to come and throw the first pitch, so that was fun to come and give them a lot of encouragement for their new league. And then Victory Church held a car show. It was a fundraiser in Sun City at Cherry Hills Plaza, and I attended that. On the 19th, the Chamber of Commerce had a wake-up over at the Ninth Shield, and Councilmember Carwin was there. And he is a security company, Justin Matoyer, and he started with about 5 people a year ago, and he's got over 150 employees. That's how fast his business is growing, so congratulations to him, and thank the Ninth Shield Security for hosting that event. On the 20th, I visited the Sun City Cruisers, is our local car club. They're going to be participating at the Fall Festival as well. They had a little gathering over at the Joyful Noise in Sun City, and so I went and visited with them. Later that afternoon, Milvet, they're the ones who put together care packages and show support to our deployed military, had a ribbon cutting event at their new office right there on Scott Road, and so I attended that, and we brought a proclamation from the city on behalf of the council. On the 25th, there was a tour. I was invited to join the mayors of Wildemar and Murrieta and Lake Elsinore touring the Animal Friends of the Valley's new clinic, and it's going to be open hopefully at the end of the year. Remember, we are a Joint Powers Authority member with that group, and so it's great to see the building. It's about 3/4 of the way done, and it'll really serve our residents well. And then, as was mentioned, District 1 Town Hall, I attended that. It was great, lots of information and a lot of good questions that were answered. And hats off to Councilman Carwin. You did a very, very good job. All right, on the 27th, there was a State of EMWD's district, and our Public Works Director was there, and so it was nice to hear some updates from Mr. Mawad, the General Manager there at Water District. On the 28th, there was a State of Wildemar's State of the City, and Councilmember Sobek and I attended. I love Wildemar, and they don't take themselves too seriously. And they like that. That's their style. They say, we don't want to be Temecula North or Menifee South. We want to be Wildemar, and that's who we are. And so good for them. It was a really nice event. And then later that day, Rotary Club held an event, and Magda Stewart from Trauma Intervention Program was the speaker at that. On October the 3rd, there was an Interfaith Council meeting, and Councilmember Sobek and I were there. And this is a little commercial for all good things must come to an end, and something I've enjoyed throughout the year is our Foodie Fridays. And this year, the very last Foodie Friday is the one in a couple of days. It's at 6 p.m. over at MSJC. If you haven't had a chance to go, this is your last chance this year. And there are thousands of people that are there, and lots of great food and music, and it's just an excellent event. So well done to the team. All right, any other last-minute items from the council to report? Hearing none, we're going to move on our agenda we pulled item 9, so we're not going to approve those minutes, and instead we're going to move to item 10, the consent calendar. All matters on the consent calendar are to be approved in one motion unless a council member requests a separate action on a specific item on the consent calendar. If an item is removed from the consent calendar, it will be discussed individually and acted upon separately. So, Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers that are requesting to speak on our consent calendar items?
No, we do not.
All right, thank you. And so we did already pull item 10.7. Staff did, and so I'm going to ask our council members, do we have any items that we want to pull for discussion? Councilmember Sobek?
I would like to pull 10.4.
4. Any others, council members? Can I get a motion to approve the balance, please?
So moved.
Okay. Second. All right. Okay, that passes unanimously with 4 yeses and 1 absent. So we're going to go ahead and take our first pulled item, and that is item 10.4, 2023 City Council proclamations. Councilmember Sobek, what's your pleasure?
You know what? I just wanted to bring awareness that October it is Domestic Violence Awareness Month as well. That is something that we as a city have supported bringing awareness to. It's also Breast Cancer Awareness Month, but on the agenda, just to remind our residents that when you do come out to the Fall Festival and that you have children that would like to use the fun zone, they are taking, instead of paying for the fun zone, they will take a donation for that, and also you can bring a donation of a large toiletry item. Our police department has shared that this is one of the most active crimes in our city, and it's not just in our city, it's all over. So let's try to end domestic violence.
I'm with you. And before we approve that item, I believe, Madam Clerk, that we will be doing a presentation October 18th for that one item.
Yes, that is correct. Somebody will be here to
Great,
Excellent.
great, that's good to
accept
know.
that, yes.
So thank you for that. I was
Okay.
unaware of it, so
So-
thank you. So I'd like to approve
Okay.
that we approve 10.4.
And I'll second that item. And I see that passes unanimously with 4 yeses and an absent. So let's move now to our first, we have one public hearing item, item 11.1. This is reversion to acreage and discharge of a lien agreement with Banner Park South by Diamond Brothers 5 Partnership. We'll go ahead and ask Mr. City Manager, can you, do you have a report from staff?
Yes, Mayor, I think we have a staff report. You ready?
I'm ready.
All
This
right,
is
hi, Steve.
I'm
Yep.
Steve Straypack, Principal Engineer and Land Development Acting City Engineer. I'll be presenting item 11.1 on the reversion to acreage.
Excellent, thank you,
we go.
Steve, welcome.
So track map 32101 was approved back in 2015. And since that time, the alignment of Briggs Road north of that was changed for a variety of reasons, including the cost of relocating the heavy-duty power lines in the area. That required the development to the south to match the extension of Briggs Road south of Dominagoni Road. So at that point, we decided to revert to acreage instead of adjusting anything. That basically wipes 32101 away. It erases the track map. So California and the city municipal code both allow for a reversion to acreage, as it's called, both at the state level and the city level. It's called a reversion to acreage. It will keep the existing utility easements in place, however. So on the screen right now, you can see the previously approved tract 32101 from back in the day, and they had 197 residential lots. In the upper right, you can see the tentative map that has been approved for the replacement development that pushes the development slightly to the west to align Briggs Road and to avoid the power lines. Doing that resulted in a net loss of about 15 residential lots. So the action to take is a parcel map, and that is the instrument used to create a reversion to acreage, and this would be parcel map 38672. So the action that staff is requesting is for the acceptance and approval of the parcel map and the discharge of any liens that were against 32101 for any kind of improvements that were in place at the time. And with that, I'll have representatives of the developer and the engineer here if you have any questions or any questions of me on this item.
All right, Mr. Straypack, thank you so much. I do have a couple of questions and just maybe a confirmation. So it is better for us to undo the existing map instead of trying to amend the old map? Is that to avoid clouding the title, or what are we?
That's correct. It is possible to simply record a new track map on top of the existing track map. But in order to avoid any issues with title and somebody pulling an old map on a title report that showed the previously approved lots and causing confusion, it was easier to simply erase the previous track map and start fresh.
And as far as the specific plan for the area, the single-family residential designation, that doesn't change, right? So when
That's
they do
correct.
come back, it'll still be a similar product, or that's what's anticipated?
That's correct.
Okay. Council members, any other questions?
I just have to say, I know a lot of residents out there are happy there will be less homes being built.
Any other questions, council members? All right, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. It is 7:05. Madam Clerk, was this item legally noticed, and did you get any correspondence on this item?
This item was legally noticed and no correspondence have been received.
All right, so I'll go ahead and close the public hearing now at 7:06. And council members, do we have any discussion on this item or a motion? I guess the motion would be as proposed by staff.
I'll make a motion that we take this as proposed by staff and just make a comment that at first when I read this title, I was like, is that the wrong word? I had never heard of that term before, so I was, as I read the staff report, it was explained very well, so thank you. So,
Yeah, and Mr. Melching, did we need to do anything?
No, Mayor, I just wanted to be very clear that the recommended actions from staff are as they appear in the staff report. They
Okay.
are the adoption of the resolution, which is included in the staff packet, and then there's an authorization to the city clerk with regard to the filing, and then a further authorization to the city manager to execute other necessary documents.
Excellent, thanks for the clarification. And
that's my move.
okay, very good. That's moved. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Straypack. All right, I see that that passes with 4 yeses and an absent. So we're going to move now to our next item. There's 2 discussion items. The first one is 12.1, Menifee Police Department's annual military equipment use report. And I see Captain Gutierrez coming to the podium. Welcome, sir.
Thank you so much. Good evening. I'm here to discuss the military equipment use report from the Menifee Police Department. I believe it was previously provided to the governing board here for review. So I'll go over it in summary and open the floor for any questions that you may have of me. So the reason that we're required to discuss the military equipment that the police department possesses and provide a use report is because Assembly Bill 481 and Government Code 772 make it a requirement for police departments to provide a yearly report on the manner in which they use military type equipment, any costs associated with it, related complaints or concerns from the public, any reports on internal audits, and any future equipment acquisitions, along with the quantity of equipment that we use. The Assembly Bill requires that the police department maintain a report open to the public review, so we actually keep that on our website. It's been there since the implementation of our equipment use reports, and this is the first report that we've done with respect to Assembly Bill 41 and adherence to the government code. Now, as I mentioned, the report has to be made available to the public, so the report that was provided to the governing body has been on our department website for over 30 days. We have not received any inquiries or concerns from the public. The report includes instructions on how to submit an inquiry if the public desires, and we have not received any inquiries as of this time, but it continues to be open for discussion, not only from our website and from being present here today. We have a department policy, 702, that also governs how we manage our reports, how we use our equipment, and we keep this on our website as well. This has been on our website for the past 2 years, our policy has, and we haven't received any inquiries or questions from the public on that. I thought I'd bring that up here today. The report that was provided to the governing body outlines the manner in which we've used our equipment. And before I continue, military equipment as defined per Assembly Bill 481 is any equipment that is military in nature. So for the public and for everybody here, that means a command post, an armored vehicle, a rifle, a beanbag shotgun, a drone, anything that can be used by the military and is possessed by the police force is considered a military type equipment, so we have to report on it. Over the past year, or for this reporting period of 2022, the police department has used equipment of this type in a variety of instances. I'll highlight a few. We used drones, 3 Bearcats, a command post, chemical agents, and rifles to subdue a barricaded suspect in collaboration with the Southwest City SWAT team earlier this year. Because of the use of this equipment, the suspect was taken into custody without any injury to him or to the officers involved. We've used drones during search and rescue operations to locate missing children or elderly adults that suffer from dementia or medical conditions. So we've used drones to successfully find people walking in the hillsides and things of that nature. We use our rifles multiple times during high-risk traffic stops and attempting to subdue armed suspects. And we use robotics during search warrant operations. So robots are considered military-type equipment. We use robotics to enter residences and clear and make them safe so that officers can enter, making sure that nobody's inside. So those are some of the ways that we've used our equipment, and that's all outlined in the report that's before you. The report also includes, on page 7, you'll start seeing a summary of the way we use the report. It highlights that we have not received any complaints from the public with respect to the use of our equipment during this time period. It also highlights that the department has conducted internal audits, and we have not identified any misuse of our military equipment. The report also highlights on page 18, Appendix B, which is a summary of the annual cost associated with the use, maintenance, and ongoing training of equipment. And on page 16, Appendix A, it highlights the initial cost of acquiring said military equipment. The last section of page 8 highlights new acquisitions of equipment that we had during that time frame. The department purchased 80 rifles, 3 40-millimeter less than lethal launchers, and 1 bolt-action rifle. So we've since added to our original list of military equipment. Therefore, the list will be updated on our department website for public view. Now, unless the governing board has any questions of me or of any other contents of the report that was provided, it is my recommendation or my request that the governing board affirm the continued use of our military equipment and file and receive the equipment use report.
Thank you, Captain. Council members, do we have any questions for Captain Gutierrez? Hearing none. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak, or have you received any correspondence on the item?
No request to speak and no correspondence for this item.
Council members, do we have any discussion or a motion to affirm the continued use of the ordinance and receive and file the report? So moved. Okay. We have a motion by by Mayor Pro Tem and a second by Councilmember Estrada.
Thank you very much.
And that passes with 4 yeses and an absent, and we're going to move to item 12.2 now. This is the agreement with Probloski Research for our biennial community surveys measuring strategic plan implementation and community needs. Ms. Kramer's at the podium. Welcome.
It's a mouthful. Thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Rebecca Kramer. I'm the assistant to the City Manager. It's a pleasure to be with you this evening. The item that is presented for your consideration tonight is our plan for initiating our biannual community survey, which was intended or identified within the city's strategic plan to measure both our progress in the implementation of our strategic priorities, as well as to continue to assess community needs and satisfaction with city services over time. The survey would be conducted beginning this fiscal year with the baseline survey, and then conducted every 2 years thereafter through our strategic planning period, which will conclude in June of 2028. Probloski Research was selected by our evaluation team following a review of the proposals received and interviews conducted with our top 4 firms that were under consideration. And this recommendation was made based on a number of factors, beginning first and foremost with their extensive experience conducting similar types of surveys throughout California and nationally. And it is an extensive list, so we won't go through all of them, but just to highlight a few, they've worked with the cities of Fontana, Montana, Rancho Cucamonga, Riverside, Redlands, Loma Linda, Canyon Lake, Paris, and then locally with our own Eastern Municipal Water District, just to name a few. That experience was considered in combination with their survey approach, which we'll talk a little bit in more detail about, and then overall cost. They proposed a flat rate to complete all 3 surveys during our planning period with no cost increases during that time frame. So the approach to conducting the survey would begin with this fall with staff working in collaboration with the Probolsky research team to develop our survey questions that would align with our strategic priorities, those performance metrics that we have established, and then initiating that baseline survey at the beginning of our calendar year. We would then be conducting the survey both in English and Spanish and using a combination of outreach methods that includes telephone, email, text, and mail communication to ensure that we're able to reach people in a variety of different ways. And each of those 3 surveys that will be conducted during this period would be use a statistically valid sample of 600 residents, representative of our city both demographically and geographically. And while we certainly solicit input from our community in a wide range of ways through town hall meetings, public hearings, at our community events. This is one of the few mechanisms by which we could acquire a statistically valid representation of feedback from our community, making sure that we're representing the population as a whole and not one subsect. So this is one tool amongst several that we would be garnering that community input from. Based upon our population size, a sample size of 600 residents would provide a 95% confidence level in the results that we receive from that. What that essentially means is if we were to be conducting that survey 100 times using that same methodology, the same approach, the findings would be the same 95 out of 100 times with a margin of error plus or minus 4%. If we were to conduct a survey that had a broader population or sample size, the cost would be significantly higher without generating any significant difference in the overall results that we'd receive from that information. So for comparison purposes, national polls often include a sample size of respondents of somewhere between 1,000 and 2,500 respondents, and for statewide polls, often respondents of a sample size of about 900 to 1,200 respondents. Obviously, that depends on the specific nature of those polls and the resources that they have available to conduct them, but just to give you some context. And then, as outlined in the agreement that's part of your agenda packet, following the conclusion of completing the survey, they would provide us with a detailed summary report, including benchmark comparison with other similar communities. This information will ultimately be used to track resident expectations, needs, and satisfaction with city services over time. So, just in summary, the item that you're considering, of course, is authorization to move forward with Probolsky Research conducting those community surveys during this period of time, completing 3 surveys beginning in this fiscal year. But before we conclude, I would like to take just a moment to welcome and introduce. We do have Adam Probolsky, the president of Probolsky Research, here with us tonight. Would be available to answer any questions that you may have specifically regarding their firm's experience doing similar types of surveys, their approach and methodology with completing a survey like the one that we're contemplating. So with that, I would thank you for your time and open the floor for any further discussion or questions you may have.
All right, thank you, Ms. Kramer. We appreciate that, and we appreciate Mr. Probolsky being here as well, because we may have some questions and encouragement for him. All right, council members, do we have any questions? We're not going to give comments yet, but questions. Mayor Pro Tem Carwin, please.
Thank you. Yeah, I've got a couple of questions, Mr. Probolsky. Maybe you could come up. Thank you very much for being here. I appreciate you coming down.
Of course.
So, an impressive list of cities you've worked with, clearly experienced. My first question for you is, how many responses to a survey would you be happy to get from the city of Menifee? What would be a good result on responses?
300 is what we typically will do in a community of your size. 400 sometimes, 600 is quite robust. It's extraordinary for a community of your size to pull that many. It really will give you a very big perspective of what your community thinks.
So when I hear that, and that's kind of in line with what I expected, but it's my understanding that's kind of in line with the responses that we're getting now from our in-house team doing surveys.
Sure.
So I'm trying to find out what the additional benefit is that your company is bringing to the city beyond our staff currently doing them in-house.
Sure, and we love data. So if you get data, we love it. If we get data, we love it. It's fantastic. The key to what a statistically valid survey provides is dead-on accuracy when it comes to age and gender and geography and ethnicity and language preference. We're going to make sure we're matching every element of your community. And the only way to really do that is to have that kind of we call it a big warm hug, if we're allowed to do that anymore, to bring in everyone. When the city or pretty much anyone does kind of a survey and sends it out by email or promotes it on social, you tend to have a less than directly reflective response base of your community. So you're not necessarily going to get a right reflective number of black respondents or people over 65 or necessarily younger people or whatever it might be. So that's the key, biggest part of what we do. And obviously you also bring in kind of some of that working with staff to make sure the questions are best practice to inform policymaking and to inform the work that they do.
So last question is, what methods of contact would you expect to use that we're not already doing?
So it may sound incongruent to 2023, but there are about a third of respondents to surveys, typically nationwide, that still prefer to talk to us on the phone. And so, if you look at this, about 2/3 at least of the things you've done on this today were kind of like this and not like this. And that's kind of essentially what happens in the survey. So we actually talk to about 10% of people still on landlines, which is kind of odd to some of us. But if we didn't call them, they would be left out of a survey like this. And then obviously most people are going to get an email or a text to respond that way because that's the preferred method. And if we do go with mail, that's another option. There's a QR code. They can call in, making sure they have the option to do English and Spanish. All those different things kind of, essentially make sure that we're being fully reflective and fully inclusive.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Councilmember Sobek's next question.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a couple questions for Ms. Kramer. So first of all, I want to thank you for a thorough report and that you had presented to us as a council. So on the residential satisfaction survey, I know this is important as we move forward as a city. Looking at the economy right now, if we were to hold off on this until the mid-year budget cycle, would that be wise? And also, I guess for Adam, I'm just going to say your first name, Adam, would this contract amount hold up for how many months? So that's kind of two questions.
Okay, I'll defer to Mr. Brabowski in terms of the time frame in which that they would honor the proposed rate. One option that we may want to consider is if we give up some of that certainty in terms of the margin of error, we could do a smaller sample survey, and that would reduce the overall cost. So that is one option that we could consider for you. And of course, delaying that process, we can certainly do that. It delays when we set that baseline parameter for monitoring over time. So that's the drawback to that, because we need to set a baseline survey first to be able to track how we're doing in terms of making improvements as we move forward with implementation of our strategic planning priorities. And we can't do a comparison if we don't have that baseline survey done. So the further out that we push that, the harder it is to kind of draw that comparison over time. So that's the benefit of moving forward more quickly, but there's certainly options, and it's it's certainly up to council if you would like to postpone that timing.
Thank you for that. You made me think, when does our mid-year budget review come forward to us?
Will likely be in about February timeframe, so first or second meeting most likely.
So we're not looking too far out. Okay. All right. And then Mr. Adam Pobowski, would this contract, if we held off for a few months and waited for our mid-year budget review cycle, would your contract amount still be this amount?
We're at your disposal. We gave you the same price for 3 years or
Okay.
for 6 years. So
Okay.
whatever you'd prefer, we're at your disposal.
Okay, thank you. My
Any other questions,
Thank you.
council members?
That's all I have.
All right, hearing none. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, my question's for staff. So as part of the surveying, there's telephone calls, emails, text, mail, and I thought Councilman Carwin brought up a good point as to, comparing the city and the services. So my question to staff specifically is, do we have an estimate to what it would cost the city to send out email, text, mail?
So what would be different for us if we were conducting this? We don't have the capacity in-house to ensure that we're doing a statistically validated survey. We can certainly push out a survey that would be an open survey for the public to be able to give us feedback, and we have done that in the past, and I'm sure we will continue to do that type of input. But that doesn't give us the ability to confirm the statistical validity of the survey, so that we're making sure that we're touching every region of the city. So geographically, that's important to us to make sure that we're hearing from the entire community, all the demographic groups, age groups, gender, et cetera. And that is not something that we have the capability of doing ourselves in-house. But in terms of just doing a general open survey, absolutely we could do that and put something like that together. It would take staff time to prepare that. The benefit of working with a firm like Propolsky Research is they have a lot of those tools already available to us to help initiate building those questions, making sure that we're able to put together a survey that answers the questions that we're looking for. So to answer your question, yes, we can do a survey at a modest cost outside of staff time, but in terms of being able to give a statistically valid survey, that is not something that we have the capacity to do.
So is there a figure though of what it would cost in staff time when we do stuff like this? Rough ballpark?
I don't have a figure. We'd have to kind of sit down and think through putting together the questions, but it would be a fair amount of staff time from that perspective than to compile the data and present that to you. Whereas a firm like Propolsky Research, that's something that they will do all the data coalition for us and preparing those reports. So that there is a significant amount of staff time involved in that.
Thanks. I know that was a hard question, so thank you.
Any other questions, council members? All right, hearing none. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak on this item?
No, we do not.
And any correspondence received on the item?
No.
Okay, council members, it's open for discussion. Mayor Pro Tem Carwin.
So I understand the need for the statistical validation, but it just seems like we're sending out stuff to everybody. We've got Menifee Matters, which goes to literally every home. Putting a line of a link to a survey in Menifee Matters and having it on the website would reach literally every home. As far as talking to people, I think this would be a great project for the youth leaders of Menifee to do a phone bank, be an opportunity for them to get involved in the city. And to spend $34,000 with the hope of getting 300 responses seems pretty fiscally irresponsible. I mean, it's not like it'd be one thing if we were reporting this to the state to comply with state guidelines that require us to have certain verified data categories and things like that, but we're not. We're doing this internally for our own benefit to the residents. So we're spending tax money to ask people how they want us to spend their tax money, right? So I'm going to spend $34,000 to ask you how you want me to spend your $34,000. It's just, it seems like we're already doing a tremendous job. We did the visioning surveys, and we got more than 600. I think we got like 800 or close to 1,000 responses from that. I just, it doesn't seem for the purposes of this survey that it's a necessary expense over the 3-year period. If we were a larger city and we couldn't handle it and it took a staff of 6 to do it, you know, I see like the County of Los Angeles is on the client list. I can imagine why they would need to bring in a consultant, something like that. City of Dixon has 18,000 people. I think you just go out in the corner and yell to people and they tell you everything's cool or not. But for the size of our city, I think we've got such an excellent technical staff, and we've got these contact points already in place. I just don't see the need for it.
If I can, I totally get what you're saying, and it certainly has merit. But at the same time, I'll just remind the council that when we were doing our strategic plan a year ago, one of the comments by our own council members is that there's just not enough input from the public. And how can we make decisions if we're not hearing from 300, 400, 500 people? And so I remember that comment, and I think that might be the impetus for us reaching out and saying, hey, over a 5-year period, let's do a little bit more research so that come next strategic plan time, we can say, hey, we've been canvassing the community. So to me, I think that's why we're doing it, but I understand there's an expense to it. And Ms. Kramer did say our staff can't have the same kinds of results and use the same methods that an independent consultant's going to be able to do. So there's value there too, so I get it.
So
Go ahead.
just my discussion item here is, you know, residential surveys, satisfaction surveys are important to help us make policy and to help our staff to know the direction that we should be moving as a city. But I did ask some questions, concerned about the forecast. And I'm just wondering if this might be an item that we might be able to come back to after the mid-year budget cycle. And so I kind of would like your comments and thoughts on that as a council. It doesn't seem like a lot, but when you add it together, you know, it can be. But I do feel like we need to hear from our residents as well. And I do know that staff is so stretched, giving them one more thing and to be able to do it correctly, it would be nice if we could do that. So it's just my thoughts on that. It is part of our strategic plan. It will help us when we have that in 5 years to have that forecast, that's those satisfactory surveys that's been sent out. But just kind of wondering if maybe waiting a little bit to our mid-year budget cycle.
Okay, and I see Councilmember Estrada's in the queue.
You know, I personally remember taking a Parks Master Plan survey and traffic study surveys that the city sends out, and part of the questions there, where do you live, what's your age group, what type of income do you have, your nationality, you know, and so breaking down the data, there might be another technical side, you know, that this consulting company may have, but 300 residents is not a hard feat to accomplish. And with the systems we already have in place, we can break down the demographics. Councilwoman Sobek, as far as bringing it back later, I'm not really in favor of that. I think either we like it or we don't. We either think it's a good budget item or it's not. That's my personal opinion.
I'll say this, if we don't do this, what I don't want to hear, and I won't even be here, but what I don't want to hear when I'm watching it on TV from home 5 years from now, and the future city council is doing a strategic plan, I certainly hope nobody says, why don't we have enough input from the public? You know what I mean? This is our opportunity to do what was requested when we did our strategic plan. And the concern was that there's not enough public input, right? And I don't know if you guys remember that, but that was an issue. And how can we make strategic plan decisions without hearing from at least 200 or 300 people. And so this is that opportunity. I think our staff is responding to our own comments. Mr. City Manager, did you want to share some thoughts?
Yes, Mayor and council members. I think one thing to know is not all the cities do this, right? I think we've been blessed with the fortune of having a strategic plan. This last plan that we did get a great deal of public participation. We heard from the public, but over time, over the next 5 years, our city is going to change. Our situation is going to change. So we need to be able to have a pulse on public sentiment over the things that we're doing. Keep in mind that every year we budget. It's about $100 million that we allocate every year. So over the next 5 years, we will spend $500 million in public money. And I don't want to be spending it on the wrong thing that the public don't want. That's why it's important for us, and we included that in our strategic plan, that we wanted to make sure that we have at least 3 times where we check back with the community to make sure that they're okay with the things we're doing. We're creating, a CIP. We heard loud and clear that the community was concerned with traffic. We're spending millions of dollars in traffic mitigation fees. So we would like to be able to use this to make sure that this year and then 2 years from now and then at the end of the 5-year program, that we make sure that we also take a pulse on the community to make sure that we're spending our money wisely. So, but you make good, valid points. Do we need this? Is that a luxury? It really isn't, because it is part of our strategic plan. It is one of those things that is included in there. We told you we were going to do this, and it is your prerogative to make sure that if we don't need it, we don't need it. We can do something else. I don't think we're going to be able to get as close to the statistically valid survey that we need, because a lot of people that follow us is the people that usually like what we're doing, but we rarely ever hear from the people that don't like what we're doing. So we need to hear from everybody. Thank you.
And Mayor, if I could just clarify, the sample survey that we've talked about doing has a sample size of 600 residents, is what's been proposed.
Okay, and I'm going to get to Mayor Pro Tem in just 1 second because he's in the queue, but I wanted to kind of finish up on this thought process that we're having. When we do our, in the future, strategic plan, having done this effort, which is usually one of the scope of work items for that, would this be something that we would realize an economic benefit by not having the future consultant have to do this exercise because we've already been doing it? Would we see some savings there when we hire a consultant to help us with that future strategic plan?
Certainly, this is data that we could use and would be helpful for that. It will depend, I would assume, that over time that we would want to continue to survey our community. So doing something every few years is something that I would anticipate that you would want to continue to do. But it's not something that would be required. And yes, this information could be used to that, and that could lower the overall cost of your strategic planning process at that time.
That's what I was asking. And I'll just, before I go to Mayor Pro Tem, I just want to throw one last comment. There is a difference when you're hearing from the public, depending on what avenue or what pulse you got your finger on. If you're just listening to the Nextdoor app, you're going to hear certain comments. If you're just listening to the local news reporter doing a podcast, you're going to hear something very snarky. If you meet people at the grocery store and speak with them and they find out you're an elected official, you might hear a different thing face to face, a little more respectful. So I think it's good for us to be able to have an independent consultant that's going to be able to canvass and go a broad spectrum across the board and not have one of those entities that I just mentioned, but maybe kind of a mix of all of it. I like the fact that we're not just relying on social media, I guess. All right, Mayor Pro Tem Carwin.
I just want to make a plea to the people of the city of Menifee. You don't have to wait for a survey to tell us what you want to see in the city, what you'd like to see changed, and what you think is doing well. We've got a podium 2 times a month. we can have 100 residents come down and tell us what they think. We invite people to come down all the time. So it's to me, super government-y to say, well, the only way we can know what people like about our city is if we spend money and send them a survey. It's like, come on down and tell us. Come down and we know where we're sitting. And so I just want to invite people to tell us all. We can get a statistically valid survey. If 300 people over the course of 6 months come to that podium and tell us what they want to see in the city, guess what? We've got an absolutely free survey that we can document everybody's background for. So people take advantage of it. Tell us, what we're trying to do is get a survey for you to tell us what you want to see. Well, why don't you just come down here and tell us to save the $30,000? That's all I'm asking.
Not all at once. All right, so council members, I don't know what our pleasure is. We're all over the place on this. Personally, I support it. How do you guys feel?
Another comment, it's not just the 30, it's $100,000. $100,000 for... Yeah, I know, but that's what we're signing up for.
It's a 5-year period, right?
Right.
So $20,000 a year.
Right.
Okay.
I would like to be able to hear from our residents. As much as I'd kind of like to wait for the mid-year cycle, I will support you, Mayor.
So what I'm saying is I want to approve this contract and get started tonight. Are you saying you want to wait till mid-year and then do it then?
I seconded that.
Okay, you're seconding mine. Well, I just was giving my thought, but yeah, let me make that a motion.
I do have a
Motion
request to speak as
Okay,
well.
all right, very good. Can you call the name of our public speaker, please?
Janelle Alberton.
All right, welcome. And maybe you can
Hiya.
state your name for us.
Janelle Alberton, like all-American, only British. All Britain.
All Britain, very good, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. My parents have been residents here in Menifee since before it was Menifee. They're going on 17 years. And I've really come to love the place. I celebrate Christmases here for the last few years. So I'm not a resident, but I am a part-time resident. My heart is here because my parents are here. So I also have a master's degree in public health, and I've suffered through numerous attempts at statistics classes. I just would love to see a show of hands. Who in this room has ever taken a statistics class? One there, one there. Wasn't it fun? I failed my first try in my undergrad program. I just didn't get it. It was almost as hard as accounting class. Different way of thinking, right? A Z of what? A P of what? Okay? Well, I could go into statistics jokes, but I won't. You get it already. So, sure, we can get tons of data. A QR code and a newsletter that goes into every house, great. My undergrad is in marketing, by the way, but I'm a little rusty with it. You can get a ton of data. People can scan QR codes if they have a smartphone, if they're not visually impaired, if they can see the buttons and figure it out, don't have a grandchild to help them get through it. You can get tons of data, but if you don't have a great statistician to analyze it, you've just got spaghetti thrown on the wall, and it's going to slime down to the floor, and you will have wasted your money, even though you thought you were saving money, right? 300 was a remarkably low number. I was shocked because I know in some medical research, the minimum number is 30, but it's usually white men that they're using for drug safety tests. So, but it's not just 300, it's the right 300. It's exactly surgical. It's the right one to add up to that 300. And I'm confident we could get over 1,000 with a pro like this, you know, getting all kinds of data. I live in New York City area, so you had Greenwich, Connecticut. Wow, that's cool. So I would love to see the city council vote them in and get started ASAP, get this stuff going, and ask the right questions. Not just, are you happy living here? I happen to know of an issue that I've been talking about with a couple members here in the police department and on city council. There's some serious problems in the city that I don't know how they're being addressed. So the right questions need to be asked. And but not just data, the analysis, I think that's really where the key is. And I think 100,000 for what he's proposing, I think it's cheap, in my opinion. Because I have statistician friends who do data gathering and analysis, and they charge a lot more than this. So thank you for the time.
All right, Ms. Albritton, thank you very much for your input. So council members, we do have a motion and a second on the table for consideration. So with that, I'm going to call for the question. Madam Clerk, if you could put the voting up. Okay, so that fails because it is a tie 2-2. So, Mr. Melching, will you help us? What is our next step?
Three options. Option one is you could try another motion. Option two is you could continue this. You could continue it for a few months to wait for the mid-year budget, or you could continue it for another meeting until you maybe have a fifth vote, bring it back and consider it then. And option three is to call the item concluded, and you don't have to make another motion tonight without direction.
All right, thank you. I appreciate the guidance. And with that, I will make another motion, and that is to continue the item until after our mid-year budget, and we have a better idea of some numbers, and then at that time, it can be put on our agenda for reconsideration. Can I get a second?
I will second that.
Okay.
May I make a substitute motion, or do we have to do this first?
You can.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I would like to make the motion and give our fifth council member, Dean Dynas, an opportunity to express his vote.
What do you want to do?
So
Call him?
we can do it at another meeting.
So we're continuing this item so that it can be taken up by all five of us.
Okay, I thought you said at the mid-year budget.
We would. So we won't do it tonight or next week, but we'll do it in a few months.
Okay. All right.
So do you withdraw your substitute motion?
I withdraw. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. All right, so we do have the original motion on the table. And let's see how that goes. And that one passed unanimously with the one absent, so we will revisit this after our mid-year budget, and we have some better idea of our fiscal picture, and we'll take it up at that time. Thank you, Ms. Kramer. Thank you, Mr. Poblowski. We appreciate you being here tonight, helping us with some of the questions. All right, with that, we're on item 13. This is city attorney reports. Mr. Melching, do you have anything for us?
I do not, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Mr. City Manager, item 14, any reports or updates?
I don't have any reports.
All right, and council members, item 15, future agenda request from council members. Councilmember Sobek.
Yes, I'd like to make a future agenda request that we meet our Caltrans District 8 representative and find out the maintenance schedule and have a nice conversation.
Are you saying welcome him to or her
Him or
to
her,
come and give us an update?
That would be nice. Since I've been on the council, have never met our Caltrans District 8 representative. I'd like to learn a little bit more about their care around our
right.
freeway on and off ramps.
I'll give you a second on that one to invite him, or him or her, depending on if they're willing to, but hopefully they will. Good idea. All right, Councilmember Estrada.
Yes, I wanted to address the valley-wide situation. I wanted to talk about next steps for annexation, specifically proposing a ballot question, giving Menifee residents the option to decide whether they want to pay the city of Menifee or valley-wide to manage their parks.
Okay, that was a little bit comprehensive because you had a few different objectives there. So,
okay, to simplify it, a ballot measure for Menifee residents regarding valley-wide.
Okay.
How would that work with the ad hoc committee that is already in existence?
And we do have an ad hoc committee scheduled for next Tuesday. And Mr. City Manager, maybe you can give us an update, because the idea is we have an ad hoc committee that kind of goes over and sorts out the nuts and bolts and figures out what's the best way to bring it to full council for a decision, whatever that decision is. So with that, would you recommend that we have our subcommittee meeting first and see what comes from that discussion?
So then let's go back to Mike's city manager report. We have been meeting with the subcommittee as the council voted to create a subcommittee to deal with this issue alone. And if you recall, we tried to petition LAFCO to allow us to manage and maintain and own the park system within the city of Menifee. And then there's 3 areas. Unfortunately, there's 2 areas in the city that are very problematic that would cause us to go back to the voters and redo the taxing mechanism. And well, that's history. But the council has put together a subcommittee to work through a alternate process. We develop a phased approach. We've been meeting with representatives of Valley-wide to talk about that approach and what would that look like in the future to gain support. Obviously, the objective would be for the city and Valley-wide to join and petition LAFCO to do that. And so we're making headway that way, and we were planning to bring a report back to the subcommittee next week at a scheduled meeting. And then asking the subcommittee to recommend that we bring the full item back to the full council, possibly the second meeting in October or the first meeting in November. And I was planning to request the council authority to file an application with LAFCO at that time to begin the process of annexing that.
So that's basically what Councilman Estrada was asking for.
No.
No?
He was saying he wants to discuss putting a ballot question on the ballot. That's not what Mr. City Manager's saying.
Oh, I thought you just said.
Well, we're going to get a.
It's a bit different. It's a bit different. It's related. I think we'll eventually end up there. But what I'm proposing to do is a phased approach, taking it in smaller chunks. Obviously, a ballot measure would involve a much larger, more robust application to LAFCO. That if we end up with the same outcome we ended up the last time, we would have to go out to a ballot measure proposal. But I wasn't proposing that at this point. I think I wanted to do a phased approach, take it in steps, take it in chunks, but I don't want that to be a full report today. I just kind of wanted to highlight the basis for what I was thinking of doing in the next couple of weeks.
Right.
I would just like to ask that Councilmember Estrada wait for the ad hoc committee to make the decision to bring back that we're in the process.
And Councilwoman Sobek and Mayor Zimmerman, I appreciate your work on the ad hoc committee, and I look forward to a full report and update, and I look forward to the city manager's report and update. But there's another element to this, and if we put it in writing that we have a future agenda item, we don't have to rush that. We can take the city manager's recommendation and do it in chunks, and no one's forcing us to talk about a ballot measure in the immediate future. But I think it's part of the transparency and part of what all residents, they want to have that discussion. They want to decide who are they going to pay their property tax dollars to. And this is part of that comprehensive plan.
Councilmember Estrada, can I make a suggestion? Maybe instead of asking for a future agenda item for a ballot measure, we ask for a future agenda item to review the options to do the acquisition.
Okay.
So that way we can get a full report on the agenda, which would lay out all of our options for us, which might lead to that, but we don't have to jump to that.
Okay, let's talk about all of the options. I'm definitely open to all of the options.
So your motion is for a future agenda item for a report on the options to acquire the parks in the city of Menifee from Valley-wide?
Yes.
A second.
Okay, there you go. Any other items for future agenda, council members?
I have one more request, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
I would like to improve our economic development marketing, and I want to make a request on helping our businesses. specifically lowering our business licenses and associated costs to the lowest in Riverside County.
And are you just, I'm sorry, I just want to get some clarification because, Menifee has business license fees, but
Right.
that we have a segment that is our own fee, and then there's lots of other.
Just
state-
what's in control of Menifee.
Just the Menifee segment.
Menifee
All right.
licensing and administrative costs for businesses.
And the goal would be to be the lowest priced business license
In the county.
in the county. All right, I'll give you a second on that, and we can have that discussion.
Thank you.
Any others, council members? All right, hearing none, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn our meeting. It is 7:56. I do want to make a quick announcement, sort of a reminder to everybody that the freeway could be closed this evening or brought down to one lane because they're doing work, and so you might want to take an alternate route. And with that, I want to thank everybody for being here tonight, and have a great week.